Melbourne researchers have had a breakthrough that could spell the end of insulin injections for diabetics.
They have successfully cured a diabetes patient. How so?
So diabetes is a fairly modern disease. Diabetes is a lifestyle disease. Why isn't the pancreas working? That's what we should be asking.
From the alarming rise in type 2 diabetes affecting millions to the dramatic lifestyle adjustments that can shift the game, such as adopting a diet rich in fiber. Let's join Barbara O'Neill in this video, and today we'll be looking into the secrets of recovering health and energy.
Maple syrup and honey. So they need to be stopped until the pancreas is starting to recover.
According to research, diabetes affects around 80.4 million individuals in the United States, or 11.6% of the total population. Furthermore, did you know that over 90% of persons with type 2 diabetes are overweight or obese? Diabetes was not mentioned in Hippocrates' works, indicating that it is a relatively contemporary or new condition.
Hippocrates, the father of medicine, 400 years BC, no mention of diabetes in his writings. So diabetes is a fairly modern disease.
Diabetes is essentially a lifestyle illness. One shocking statistic regarding diabetes is that roughly 1/5 of those who have it are unaware of their condition, typically due to minor symptoms that are easily disregarded. If we consider Newton's third law of motion, which indicates that for every action, there is an equal and opposite response, we might wonder why the pancreas isn't performing properly. Proverbs 26:2 states, "The curse causeless shall not come," implying that there is always a purpose behind every difficulty. So why are so many pancreases failing to work properly? One of the pancreas's primary functions is to release two important hormones.
One is insulin, that gets the blood sugar down. The other hormone is glucagon, and that gets the blood sugar level up.
Now contemplate the dinner you had tonight. Because the meal was high in fiber, everything on your plate contained fiber, along with large levels of protein, such as those found in legumes, and some healthy fats, your body received the nutrition it required to support appropriate blood sugar regulation. The meal you just had delivers a slow, consistent release of glucose and nutrients, allowing the pancreas to release insulin only when necessary.
It gives a slow, sure, steady release of glucose, of nutrients. And that allows the pancreas to just release the insulin as it's needed.
This is what every cell in the body, including the pancreas, desires: balanced, controlled insulin release. Unfortunately, many people today follow a high-carbohydrate diet. This type of diet produces a lot of glucose, especially when it contains refined sweets and wheat. In fact, processed carbohydrates can cause blood sugar levels to rise nearly as much as sugar. One particular grain boosts blood sugar levels much higher than refined sugar. This is owing to its simple molecular structure, which is primarily glucose.
And by the way, the refined grains, it's almost as high as sugar. But there is one grain that gets the blood sugar levels higher than refined sugar. Is that a surprise? And the grain that does that, it's wheat.
Glucose is then immediately taken into the bloodstream, and because blood represents the body's life power, it is quickly integrated. The bloodstream functions as a key highway, with the portal vein carrying glucose directly to the liver, the body's project manager. The liver acts as an orchestrator, managing everything that enters the body. The first role it does is to deliver glucose to the cells for energy. Insulin regulates the entry of glucose into cells. Insulin effectively serves as a key, unlocking the door and allowing glucose in. Once within, glucose undergoes a 20-step metabolic cycle that yields 2 units of energy.
Sugar level up very high, very fast. So then you get a corresponding dump. So that's the A. So let me give you something to compare it to, amylopectin B. Amylopectin B is found in bananas and potatoes, and if you're familiar with the glycemic index of food, Bananas and potatoes, they're high on the glycemic index, so they get the blood sugar level up relatively high.
Why do people eat? To generate energy so that our eyes, ears, brain, and heart can work. Every cell in our bodies is fueled by glucose. At the completion of this 20-step process, glucose is transformed into pyruvate. This pyruvate then enters the following phase, which is commonly referred to as the cell's powerhouse.
Remember the 20-step pathway that gives us 2 units of energy. There's the 8-step pathway that gives us 36. Of course, that's the oxygen pathway. But remember the little bunch of grapes, the little glycogen stores.
It goes through an 8-step process here, producing an impressive 36 units of energy. Isn't it a significant difference from the 2 units we saw earlier? And here's a significant point. The second pathway requires oxygen, but the first does not. What a difference oxygen makes. Consider this. How would you feel if all 100 trillion of your cells had adequate oxygen to activate this 8-step pathway? Can you imagine the limitless energy pouring through your body? Speaking about energy storage, the body has a technique of storing excess glucose. Instead of holding it like a bunch of grapes, it stores it as glycogen, which are tiny molecules that may be called upon as necessary.
Of these glycogen stores that gave him energy, got the blood sugar level up, he said to me, "Why didn't anyone tell me about glycogen?" I believe glycogen is the diabetic's best kept secret.
Glycogen is your body's quick-release glucose storage, ready to deliver energy as needed. Let me give you an example. Yesterday, about 4:30 p.m., I ate some mild soup. Then I worked hard. It was approximately 10 p.m. when I went to bed. I usually wake up at 5 a.m., but I let myself sleep in a little bit. A often asked question is, how will I have the energy to move around without food? The solution is in your glycogen storage. It's diabetics' best-kept secret. All you have to do is unlock it, which may be achieved through exercise and water.
So the blood sugar level should sit at about anywhere between 5 and 6. So he got up one morning and his blood glucose levels were 3. So what he did was he had the salt, water, got dressed, had another salt, more water, went for a run, came back, tested his blood glucose levels, they were 9. And he'd had nothing to eat. Where did that come from? Came from the stores, the glycogen stores and the fat stores.
Let us now discuss another component that contributes to diabetes: dairy. In the China study, Dr. Colin Campbell describes how dairy consumption might lead to difficulties. The difficulty is that humans lack the 5 stomachs that cows have, making it difficult for us to adequately digest dairy products. As a result, partially broken down molecules enter the bloodstream, which the body recognizes as foreign invaders. To protect itself, the immune system generates antigens that target these molecules. But here's where things get tricky. The invader's molecular structure is similar to that of pancreatic beta cells. As a result, while the body fights off dairy compounds, it may mistakenly begin attacking the pancreas's beta cells, which are responsible for insulin production. This autoimmune reaction may lead to the breakdown of pancreatic function, making diabetes control even more complicated. I hope my explanation wasn't too long, but dairy plays a significant impact on diabetes risk. According to studies, children who ingest cow's milk during their first year of life are 70% more likely to develop type 1 diabetes. Isn't it alarming? However, what do most children eat for breakfast? Cereal, milk, and sugar all mixed together. I grew up following the same schedule, as I'm sure many of you did. It's simple to see why this has become such a major issue in our culture.
So to conquer diabetes, what do? To conquer diabetes, go for the low glycemic index foods.
Another important element to consider is medicine. Many medicines have side effects that harm the pancreas, particularly the beta cells responsible for insulin synthesis. Research in this field has been ongoing for decades, and in the 1980s, Dr. Glasson made key discoveries about the link between the polio vaccine and type 1 diabetes. Even more worrying, new health data indicate that the only remaining instances of polio today are directly related to the polio vaccine. This raises a wider question. If polio was practically eradicated before the vaccination, What does this imply for present medical practices? Despite these unpleasant insights, there is yet hope. The human body is an exceptional self-healing machine. Even in the face of these obstacles, it is capable of restoring balance and healing itself with the correct support and environment. When you give your body the correct conditions, it can do incredible things.
That's why exercise is vital. Not only that, what happens when you exercise and you're doing high intensity, your cells screaming out for fuel. So what happens is extra insulin receptor sites develop on the membrane around the cell so that it can take more glucose in.
Barbara received a call from a woman regarding her 16-month-old child, who developed diabetes shortly after vaccination. Naturally, not every child who receives a vaccine develops diabetes. It is more complex than that. Imagine a bundle of small threads braided together to form a strong rope. That rope is so strong that even a powerful man cannot break it. However, a small mouse, which a man could easily crush, can gnaw away at the threads. Bit by bit, that supposedly unbreakable rope weakens and comes apart. In the same way, tiny factors, diet, environment, and lifestyle choices can gradually harm the body, leading to problems like diabetes. Particular foods, such as particular types of wheat, have been shown in studies to play a role in the death of beta cells in the pancreas.
And the grain that does that is what? Bread and cereal and pasta and cakes, etc., and pizza are all made out of predominantly one grain. What's that one grain? It's wheat.
So how can we overcome diabetes? It starts with choosing foods with a low glycemic index. You might think it's complicated, but it's actually very simple. You can simply locate a glycemic index chart online. A little change, such as eating berries for breakfast instead of bananas, makes a tremendous difference. Choosing sweet potatoes over ordinary potatoes is another excellent option for managing blood sugar levels. When it comes to cooking, attention to detail is essential. Take beans as an example. After my beans are about 3/4 cooked, I thoroughly rinse them before combining them with a flavorful sauce. This makes them considerably easier to digest and may alleviate any digestive discomfort. It's a little step, but it can make a huge difference, especially for people who don't like beans. According to Barbara, she married her husband 24 years ago. He could eat lima beans and red lentils without difficulty, but brown lentils and kidney beans? These were out of the question for him. What did she do? She introduced them gradually, 1 teaspoon at a time, throughout meals, beginning with what didn't cause problems. His body gradually adjusted, and he was able to consume those beans without difficulty. Isn't it fascinating how subtle modifications may have such a wonderful effect? When we discussed the liver earlier, we said that legumes contain just around 1/3 of the carbohydrates found in grains, making them a better alternative for persons with diabetes. However, there are several foods that must be avoided if you want to overcome diabetes. No more refined sugar. And here's something most people don't realize. If you're serious about reversing diabetes, you should also avoid any so-called healthy sugars for a while, such as palm sugar, maple syrup, and honey. Let me tell you about Dan, a young man who attended Barbara's program. At the age of 15, he developed type 1 diabetes as a result of a large round of antibiotics. By the time he was 19, his doctors informed him that his pancreatic was dead. She questioned him. Is this gangrene? What exactly has died? If there is blood flow, the pancreas is still active. After all, the blood is the source of life for the flesh. So Dan began making changes. No wheat, no refined sugar, and no coffee. Speaking of caffeine, did you know that it might cause an insulin response? That's why it's critical to avoid it while trying to recover your body from diabetes. So that has to be removed.
Another thing is no wheat, no caffeine, and no refined sugar and no caffeine. Caffeine can actually get an insulin response, so that has to be stopped.
When Dan came to Barbara, he only ate low glycemic foods, adding legumes into every meal and drinking more water to stay hydrated. He learned that whenever his blood sugar levels rose between meals, combining a pinch of salt with a glass of water helped him stay in control.
And what he found was if he felt that he was getting a blood sugar level low between meals, He'd have a little bit of the salt and a glass of water, and it would maintain him. I do not advise diabetics eat every 2 hours because that really disrupts digestion.
Remember that digestion takes approximately 3.5 to 4 hours. It's critical to take a decent gap between meals. This is precisely what Dan practiced. He was able to slow the flow of glucose into his system by eating meals high in fiber. Large amounts of protein, such as legumes, nuts, and seeds, were also included, all of which are low in carbs. This technique prevents the pancreas from being overworked while supplying vital nutrients. Healthy fats were another important part of his diet. Earlier this week, I talked about the difference between healing and harmful fats. The hazardous fats, sometimes known as killer fats, include modified fats found in deep-fried foods and margarine. These are fats that have been changed or processed, particularly polyunsaturated fats extracted at high temperatures, which can be harmful to health. Healthy fats are essential in your diet, and the finest options include olive oil, coconut oil, real butter, and cream. If someone tells me they are avoiding all fats, it is a mistake. Our brains are primarily composed of fat, and we require appropriate fats to function effectively. Essential fatty acids are essential for overall health. Omega-3s, for example, are found in fish oil, while omega-6 can be found in seeds, nuts, and cereals. But don't forget about exercise, which is also an important part of diabetes and weight management.
It's the high-intensity interval training. So he'd put his joggers on every morning and he would run up and down the hills.
A specific sort of exercise can improve your body's efficiency and efficacy. This type of physical exercise can encourage the formation of new insulin receptor sites, helping your body to respond more effectively to insulin. Shockingly, with the appropriate strategy, you can start to overcome insulin resistance in just a few days. Interval training is an effective approach to consider. As the name implies, this contains alternating periods of high intensity and recovery. Interval training has been demonstrated in studies to be quite beneficial, particularly when performed on exercise cycles.
Now, after he was with us for 4 weeks, he did 2 weeks program and 2 weeks in the garden.
But don't worry if you're not into biking. You may apply this strategy to any workout that works for you, such as swimming, push-ups, or even wall push-ups. The goal is to choose an activity that you enjoy and fits with your lifestyle. If you're not sure where to start, go to a gym and experiment with different equipment to determine what feels most comfortable. Once you've determined what you want, you may look into purchasing used equipment on platforms such as Gumtree or eBay. Look at Dan. Dan was able to lower his insulin intake by 90% in just 3 weeks, indicating that he was making improvement. As his blood sugar levels dropped, he changed his insulin, resulting in even lower dosages. For effective interval training, aim for 30 seconds of high intensity followed by 90 seconds of recovery, repeating this process 6 times. If completing 6 cycles at once proves difficult, start with 3 instead. Remember, it's all about meeting yourself where you are. The main thing is to keep moving. Do not stop. This strategy not only makes exercise more manageable, but also lays the groundwork for long-term improvements in your fitness and general health. Dr. Al focuses on the idea of PACE, which stands for Progressive Acceleration of Cardiopulmonary Exercise. You do not need to memorize that. It simply means that what feels challenging now will become manageable in a matter of days. Have you considered the math behind that? It's very impressive. What if I told you that just 10 minutes of this exercise can produce fantastic results? As a busy person, I used to enjoy my half-hour walks, which covered 2 kilometers each. Dan's clothing was soaked when he returned from his morning stroll, proving that he put in the effort. Now, consider how dedicated Olympic athletes are in their training. They give everything they have. But here's the kicker. We're practicing for something far more important than the Olympics, life itself. The decisions you make for your body today will influence the quality of your life in later years. Today, we looked at ways to control and potentially reverse diabetes with easy lifestyle modifications. You may support your pancreas and increase your energy levels by eating more fiber, avoiding refined carbohydrates and dairy, and carrying out high-intensity interval training. Every small move you take now helps to create a healthier future. What actions will you do to improve your health? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more additional insights. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.